Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make sure that you don't overwater your Venus flytrap. So first off, when you get a Venus flytrap, the most important thing for them, besides being outside in the full bright direct sunlight and the right soil and the right type of pot, the most important thing is that you have to give them the right type of water. The water that they need is rainwater, reverse osmosis water, or distilled water. And as a general rule of thumb, they need to sit in this water 24/7. But you can actually overwater them and cause them to rot. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Now, for whatever reason, people don't really talk about overwatering Venus flytraps. They say that it can't really happen. But in my experience, I know it can because I've actually caused some of them to rot away. Generally, you want your Venus flytrap to be sitting in about 2/3 of the height of the pot. That's how much water you want them to sit in. And I always try to remind people to let the water tray dry out or get very empty before they fill it back up, and that is to prevent the root rot from happening. There's been many times where I've actually kept the Venus flytraps in water and I've just kept the water level constant for many months, even during dormancy, which is when it is most likely to happen, and the plants rot away. It happens. It's happened to me and it does happen. Now, this is something, like I said, not many people really talk about. They say like Venus flytraps, they won't really rot away and stuff, but if you are watering them correctly, like I said, letting the water level fluctuate, most likely won't happen. If you keep it the same, it will happen. Now, the reason why this actually happens is because when you have water constantly filled up to this point of your pot, essentially water above the holes of the pot, what happens is that it forms like a cap. So oxygen and air can't actually get to the bottom of the pot. What that means is that the soil and everything down there becomes anaerobic and it smells really bad. If I smell this, it doesn't smell like anything. It smells like peat. It smells like nothing. But if you smell the bottom of your pots, then it smells kind of like sulfur, kind of like, something anaerobic, like decomposing material. You know that your pots are going anaerobic. Not always a bad thing, but be careful of overwatering. Try not to overwater it because your plants can rot away. The rhizome of the plant will constantly be sitting in water, and what happens is then the plant's rhizome starts rotting away, and when the rhizome is gone, the rest of the plant will go after that. Now, this is actually more prevalent in wintertime because obviously in wintertime it is colder and there's less sunlight, and what those two things mean is that there is less evaporation in the water bowls, the water trays for your Venus flytraps. And what that means is that the water level fluctuates much less. And also, as people who look after the plants, when you check up on your plants whenever that is, you'll see the water level will drop. You'll think, oh, I'll just top it up now so I don't have to do it later on. And the point where the air can actually get to the bottom of the pot, that never actually happens in winter, especially because we don't really let them dry out completely. So that's why I say it's more prevalent in winter, and like I said, it's happened to me and it happens to people all the time. So the suggestion remains the same. Fill it up to 2/3 the height of the pot, and that's the same for any pot, 2/3 the height of the pot, and let the tray either dry out or just have a tiny bit of water at the bottom so that air can get to the holes at the bottom of the pot. Now I'm going to let you guys in on a big brain secret, an advanced grower's tip. Venus flytraps don't have to be wet. They don't have to be waterlogged either. This is something that seriously can kill your plants. Some people really do believe that the plants have to be waterlogged, sitting in water 24/7. They put them in a bowl with no drainage or anything like that. Most carnivorous plants like to be kept moist, not wet. And you kind of achieve that with peat. That's why in one of the previous videos I was talking about sphagnum moss versus peat as a soil for the plants. So I say peat is better because it doesn't stay as wet as sphagnum moss. And that's why I like to recommend it to people, because you're less likely to cause your plant to rot away in peat compared to moss. But in saying that, a Venus flytrap, in my experiences, with these small experiments that I've done in the past, if you keep the Venus flytrap soil and the media moist and not wet, the plant grows much bigger, much better, and much more vigorous. You can kind of tell with these guys, I let the entire water table dry out before I re-top up the table. And for some species, they don't really like that because they overheat and whatnot, but it's kind of unavoidable because I'm watering tons of different species at once, so especially now in winter. I mean, in summertime, I have to keep the level higher so that those plants don't die off. But in wintertime, you actually can get away with it, and it does help the plants out a little bit more. I let the tray, the water table, literally dry out, and I water the tray the same day that it has dried out. And what that means is that you don't get plants smelling like sulfur, you don't get the anaerobic activity happening in the soil of the plants, and your plants stay pretty healthy and happy. So that brings up the question, how long can you go without watering your Venus flytrap? Well, this depends on how hot it is and how much sunlight the plant is, basically how quickly the water is going to evaporate out of the pot of the plant. Now, all those factors come into consideration, but you can always look at the top of the pot. Now, obviously there's a lot of moss here, and a moss is a good indicator. If the moss goes dry and brown, it's dry. You can also tell by the weight. He dropped it. The weight of the plant. Or if there's no moss, you can actually look at the color of the peat. Now I'll show you the bottom. The peat is black. Black or dark peat means it has a lot of water in it. It's holding as much water as possible. Light brown peat is dry peat, and you get a range of colors in between. Now anywhere from dark peat to the middle to light colored peat, which is a very arbitrary system, that is all good for a Venus flytrap. So theoretically, on a normal autumn or spring day where it doesn't get excessively hot during the day, you can leave your plants without water in the tray for like 2 to 3 days. Obviously you have to watch them, but in my experiences, when I do this with them, especially in winter time, they grow much happier and much healthier. So you guys can try that too, but as I said, it is an advanced grower's tip. It's not something I would recommend to anyone. The normal leaving the tray to dry out and then topping it back up at the same time you see it's dry, I would recommend that much more. But if you are a serious Venus flytrap grower, or some drosseras too, each one is different, but it's more of the easy growing sundews, you can actually leave their tray for 2 to 3 days between watering, and your plant will actually benefit from it. That's what I found, at least. So make sure that you look at the moss, look at the soil color, and the weight of the pot. Those are 3 indicators which can help you. Obviously look at the plants. Like these guys, their leaves don't show much. They don't talk through their leaves. Some house plants or something, if you don't water them, they go all limp. If you water them too much, they also go limp. So you can kind of tell with them. But Venus flytraps, the leaves will always stay rigid, and they can be dying. They'll literally be dying, and the leaves will still be green, and it will die from the middle outwards, and the whole plant will just rots away, and there's nothing you can do when the rhizome is gone. So make sure that you watch out for those signs, guys. Don't leave your Venus flytrap in too much water. Let the tray drain out so that they can get air to the bottom of the pot. And if you want to try it out, leave the pot without water for 2 to 3 days. More likely to do that in spring. It's better for you to do that in winter time than summer and spring, because it is much colder, and that's when I would recommend it. I do not recommend you try that during summer. Even I do not do that during summer, but definitely in winter, and I have done it in the past seasons, and my Venus flytraps were super happy with it. Now, besides overwatering, which can cause rot, you can also get rot in your plants from the wrong type of water. This isn't very prevalent because people oftentimes will use the correct type of water, and if you're using the right water, that's great. But if you're not using the right water, I'm not too sure why, but like the minerals in the water causes the roots and the rhizome to rot away. And I think this is my logic for it, right? Too much minerals and nutrients in the water, like we know for carnivorous plants and Venus flytraps, causes the plant to die. It kills the plant. And where do plants take water from? Their roots, right? And Venus flytraps, water and nutrients and stuff will go from the roots to the rhizome, to the leaves, to the traps, right? So the first thing to get damaged are your roots, then your rhizome, and you can't see that. You can only see the black death creeping from the center of the plant up the leaves. And by that time, when you see the creeping black death, your rhizome is most likely 95% gone. And I think that comes from the wrong type of water, more so than overwatering. But if you're using the wrong type of water, you might be overwatering too. So it's a pretty interesting thing that too much nutrients and minerals and stuff in the water will kill the roots, kill the plants, and dead stuff, like we know, rots away. Alright, if it's dead, it's gonna rot, and that rot will spread throughout the plant. It's like a disease. You kind of have to cut it off. Yeah, that's why, like, if people get like gangrene on their arm, you have to get an amputation and stuff, because you can't really stop that spread. So it's similar with the Venus flytraps. So yeah, that is the video request for this week. Someone asked how we can prevent and look at root rot. Pretty simple video, but it's one that I think is actually very important, especially that tip that I've given you guys about actually letting the plants dry out a little bit. If you can ensure that your plant stays moist, they prefer that. They would love that much more than staying wet. So get one plant from your collection and experiment with it. You're gonna have to obviously keep an eye out on it much more than any of the other plants, because you can't just leave it sitting in water. But give it a month or two and see how your plant does. I'm pretty sure your plant will grow much better, much happier when it is moist and not wet. Otherwise, use the right water and let air get to the roots, because the plant doesn't want to suffocate. You know, no one wants to suffocate, and it can cause the plant to die off. So if you guys have any video recommendations, something you want me to talk to you guys about, just like this video, how to prevent the plant from rotting away, let me know in the comments, or email me, or go onto Instagram or Facebook me. I'm happy to look at any recommendations, and I will let you guys know. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like. It does help the channel. I say this all the time, and like all the other YouTubers, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you've watched up to the end of this video. It means that you enjoy the videos and you'll like to see more of them, and it does help the channel out. I want to reach 10,000 subscribers at the end of the year. We are at 6,100, so we're getting close, guys. So thank you for everything, guys, and I'll see you in the next video, and hopefully the next video is a little bit more informative than one of these short, simple ones. Not that they aren't informative, but something a little bit more exciting. So I'll see you guys then.